Tomorrow's Jacaranda Rally is the focus of the country. And many people are looking to see how the politics of this country will shape from Jacaranda and after. There are those in the government, the president and his deputy and close people, who are playing down these Raila moves. They dismissed Kamukunji, the first Kamukunji, it happened in terms of numbers. The recent Kamukunji also happened. Good attendance. The president and his people have dismissed it. They have argued that Raila is pushing for the handshake, for which they say is famous. And they are saying they will not budge. So tomorrow's Jacaranda Day must be looked at in terms of whether or not it can shake the government. The government reckons they are not moved. And it's because they are looking at the political angle to this, Raila moves, that they are sure the people have moved on, that the people are not bothered by what they see as noise from Raila. My advice to government and people who think likewise is that the people may not be showing signs of agitation, but certainly there are millions of Kenyans who believe this election was stolen. There are millions of Kenyans who are hurting. And there are thousands of Kenyans who are willing to do anything to right the wrong. Beyond the politics, because I think the president and his people think Raila will concentrate on the politics and they will beat him at the politics. But the Jacaranda Rally may not just talk about the theft of the election. The Jacaranda Rally can also build on what's going on in this country. So on top of telling Kenyans that this election was stolen, that we got 8 million vis-a-vis the president's 5.9, that we beat him with a clean 2 million votes, they will also be looking at what's going on in the country. Look at the cost of living of a government that is insensitive, not only to remove subsidies on electricity and power, but on planning to increase electricity tariff, to increase the cost of electricity by a whopping 78% come April. This is not a joking matter. We are looking at a government that is introducing capital gains tax, not introducing, moving it from 5 to 15%. And the implication of that. This is what is being perhaps touched on by the Azimio people in Jacaranda and later. So that you are not just looking at a stolen election. You are looking at a government that seems to be insensitive by introducing unnecessary levies, unnecessary taxes. For example, you are addressing young people and asking them, how can a government at this time introduce taxes on the digital platforms, on the digital place, Spotify, Zoom, Google, Netflix. All the things the young men are engaged in today with a view to mining that space Because, for the information of the government, the digital space is being mined across the world and is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Just when Kenyan young people are exploring YouTube, they are trying to make some little earning from TikTok and YouTube, government is targeting them for taxation. Not forgetting that the American government is already levying taxes on the money being earned by Kenyans. Instead of the Kenyan government engaging the American government, because that's the home of YouTube, and telling them, we have a small group of young people in this country who are starting to enter that space. Please rethink the taxes. Instead of doing that, government is following that young man on YouTube to tax the little money they get. If this information is shared by people at Jacaranda, government is not just facing politics, but a lot more. Government is reintroducing bank charges, bank-to-bank transfers, the sort of interventions that were brought on board during COVID. And people have been enjoying that. From the comfort of your office or home, you could move money from your bank on your phone. Government proposes to tax that at 20%. So when people are being told about a stolen election in Jacaranda, they're also being told about the suffering of the net increase on VAT, so that VAT goes beyond where it is, introducing it where it has not been before. Knowing all too well, VAT is the most immoral tax, a criminal tax, I may add, a tax that does not discriminate between a person who sleeps in Muthaiga and a person who sleeps in Kibra. They all buy the same product, tax the same. My little understanding of tax, it must be discriminative. Taxes must discriminate between those who have and those who don't have. When you have a tax that cuts across, you tax Mama Mboga the same way you tax a billionaire and you want to increase. So I'm advising government, do not dismiss the Raila rallies. Because if Raila is going to share these sort of things, including M-Pesa, transfers, government is targeting all this, including suggestions and proposals to let the taxman enter your M-Pesa to see how much you transact with a view to taxing you, which is a very lazy way of doing things. Supposing I receive 30,000 on my phone, do you think that money is mine? It could simply mean I'm a teacher in the village. A friend in Nairobi has sent me that money to give the mother, to save her the trouble of having to travel to the nearest market center. That's not my money. I'm a school teacher. I've received 2,000 to give a child for pocket money. It's not my money. That the people who run this country would appear to me to have very, very little understanding of what's going on in the country. So I'm advising government, you may want to dismiss the Raila rallies. You may want to think it is politics. But the moment Raila infuses the question of the cost of living of a country, schools have opened, and many, many parents are unable to take their children to school because of school fees. In a country where many, many people are going to bed hungry. World Bank, government statistics. In a country where people are watching loved ones die because of preventable and treatable diseases. In a country where people are selling everything they have to deal with cancer patients. At a time we are being told 1 out of every 3 homes could be having a cancer patient. In a country hurting this much economically, a country hurting this much economically, the leadership of the country cannot afford to play with things like the Raila rallies. Because if Raila were to concentrate on a stolen election, whether true or not, it will be true that the president and his team can convince the country that these are power-hungry people. But if the people in these rallies are to tell people we are talking about a hurting economy, we are wondering how we can allow a government that has stolen elections to be in office for 5 years as our people die. Of giving, for example, a scenario where somebody has stolen from your place something. You've discovered the young man who broke into your house and stole something from your house. You've known who he is, that he has sold that property, got from your house. But you know he comes from a poor family. He has a young family. You are willing to forget and say, atapatikania mbele. Because he could have stolen because of need. Maybe he's feeding his family. Then you are told, no, wait a moment. The young men who broke into your house are right now as you speak enjoying a drink. In fact, the table they are occupying is like a forest of beers. You'll change your mind. You'll go after them. Likewise, if the people in Azimio are to bring out the fact that they would be willing, like they have done before, in the interest of country, to forget, forgive, and move on, and wait for 2027, they will be telling the people, how do we leave government to people who in 4 years will have made people die of hunger? In other words, you steal an election and mess it, mess the economy, mess the people. And that's why I would advise government, President William Ruto, not to take lightly the Jacaranda rallies and the many more that will follow. Because the narrative may switch from a stolen election to the suffering Kenyans have, and of the need either to push this country, this government, into serving the Kenyan people, or even to remove it from power. Because the basis for the argument is there, that it's true Kenyans are suffering. The economy is hurting. Millions of young people are jobless. Taking children to school is a nightmare. In a situation such as this, in a country where the economy is this hurting, where the people are suffering the way they are suffering, the leaders cannot afford to play with the politics. And therefore I advise the president, as I've done before, even with Uhuru Kenyatta, advise them to find it in their heart, to find space in their heart, to think about this country and the future of this country, and to be able to chart out a path of reconciliation. That sitting down with Raila Odinga, if you are William Ruto, does not show you are weak. It shows you understand the responsibility you have as president, of the responsibility history has placed on you, on the fact that the future of this country depends on you. and that you can be the bigger brother. I hold the view that President William Ruto should look out for Raila Odinga and sit down not to share government, because nobody will even allow Raila to share government with Ruto, but to do one thing that will restore hope and peace in this country, that will bring to an end these meetings and what Ruto and Gachagua call maandamano, that can destroy the country. Nobody has the power to stop Kenyans if they spill into the streets. There's absolutely nothing you can do. But there's nothing good that will come out of that. If they sit down to discuss how to create an impeccable electoral infrastructure so that Kenyans know there will be need for voting in 2027, by coming up with an electoral system that is tamper-proof, foolproof, that does not have space for the Chapukatis of this world, that will not allow foreigners, for example, to be anywhere near our elections in the name of creating a system that can be created by first-year university students. A country that created M-Pesa, that is known across the world, can't be unable to create a transmission system from a polling station to some tallying station. We must put all cards on the table. My final advice to the top leadership of this country, that includes the opposition leaders, is to think about country, to sit down and on the table of discussion agree that this election was not the best election we could have as a country. And any future messes of this nature can destroy this country. And we agree as a people to examine our electoral system and ensure that 2027 can happen. Because if we leave it where it is, only a fool will present himself for election as president against Ruto in 2027. We can't allow ourselves to go in that direction. We must therefore sit down. The president must stop ignoring these rallies because they portend danger for the country. They could even snatch his presidency. Raila must consider sitting down with Ruto in the interest of the country, so that we look at how best we can move as a country to restore the hope that Kenyans had when they came up with a new constitution, that 2007 will not happen in terms of electoral theft and what could follow thereafter. I beseech our leaders to listen to me and sit on a table, as Orengo put it, on a table of brotherhood and sisterhood.